Hey guys, it's Destiny, and today we'll be going over each of these standard banner characters since I'm sure some of us, or maybe even many of us, are getting near the 300 pulls on the banner, which allows you to pick any of these standard characters to obtain for free once you get to that threshold. So in a way, it's kind of like a reward for going through those 300 pulls, which might have been really good or pretty painful to say the least. Overall though, it's awesome that we get to do this. So I'll be going over the perks of each character in cases where you may or may not want them on your account, what they can offer in team comps, and much more. Without further ado though, let's begin with our sustained characters from the standard banner. Gepard and Bailu are both options that you can get from the standard banner that provide sustain in their own way. Bailu is a lightning abundance character and is able to provide invigoration through her skill kit and a good amount of healing as a result. Bailu also has a revive, which is unique to her, and this will allow possible mistakes made within battle to not be as critical. Or let's say an enemy just one-shots you, she'll be able to bring them back with her dragon powers. Of course though, the revive is only once per battle, so once that is up, you can't have that happen once again. It would be kind of cool though if Bailu did have infinite revives, just a bunch of 1-up mushrooms, but unfortunately she does not. Bailu is also able to increase the max HP of invigorated allies, and also they will receive 10% less damage through her traces. Overall, Bailu has a really good healing kit. However, the main flaw with Bailu is primarily how she lacks cleansing, which cleansing is used to remove debuffs, especially crowd control debuffs, from your allies. Locha, Natasha, and even Lynx, who will be upcoming on the next 1.3 banner, all have cleansing. Cleansing is quite important as crowd control debuffs can be quite detrimental in fights depending on what you're fighting. When it comes to team comps though, Bailu can be practically on any team due to her being your sustain, which is a nice benefit. You will definitely though have to have a character that is able to remove debuffs on your team though, since she is not able to do so. As for our next sustain we'll be going over, it is Gepard, or should I say Jeppy. He offers quite a good amount of sustain and utility through his kit. Gepard is able to team-wide shield with his ultimate and can also have a base chance to freeze enemies, which can be useful against enemies in general. You can use this in a freeze team, possibly of Yanqing Gepard, or also when using a damage over time team with a character like Kafka. Gepard also has a way to revive himself through his talent Undying Will. Definitely has Undying Will to say the least. As for Gepard's traces, it will make him have a higher likelihood of being hit, and also restores energy to 100% when Undying Will activates, which can allow Gepard to basically revive himself and immediately put up his shield. When it comes to team comps, I suggest Gepard as a sustain for majority of teams, except for teams with characters like Clara or Blade, since they want to be hit as much as possible, so with those two I would recommend the healer instead, especially our other sibling coming out soon. Now that we've gone over the rundown on Bailu and Gepard, let's go over our damage dealers. Let's begin with Himeko. Himeko is an Erudition Fire character, and she is able to burn enemies with her skill kits and traces, deal more damage to enemies that are burned, conduct follow-up attacks when she has enough charges from her kit when enemies are weakness broken, and so on. Himeko has the potential to do quite a good amount of damage with proper supports. She could be used as a main DPS or even a sub DPS on your team. Regarding picking Himeko though, she can be a good option for those who wish to have a fire DPS in their roster, but based on the drip marketing we have seen, we will be getting 2 new fire characters in 1.4, one of them being Topaz, who is a fire hunt character and will likely be our strongest fire DPS once she is out. So if you do like Topaz and possibly want to pull for her, I would advise using the standard Selector on possibly a different 5-star, unless of course Himeko is one of your favorite characters, which I do not blame you for that, as she's definitely one of my favorites as well. As for Yanqing, he has the chance to freeze enemies, a chance to inflict follow-up attacks, and also deal a good amount of damage without needing a high amount of crit rate with his ultimate and Soul Steel Sync, which can allow you to focus a bit more on crit damage, attack speed, and so on. I would like to make a similar mention as I have with Himeko, as it seems like Jingliu will be one of our 1.4 banners, and she is an Ice Destruction class character, which if you intend to pull for Jingliu, you may want to use a Selector on another character. Now for Clara, she operates as a tank DPS who could take a lot of hits as well as rebuttal against enemies with her super strong follow-up attacks. Clara is a very strong physical character who could be your main DPS or even as a sub DPS who will take tank hits and also deal a lot of damage against enemies and can be very skill point efficient as a sub DPS on your team. This could be a great option if you're fighting enemies as well that are weak to physical. Clara can also reduce damage taken with her ultimate and also can increase her likelihood of being hit, which can result in her playing as an amazing tank DPS on your team. Lastly, for our damage dealers, we have Welt. Welt is able to use his own forms of speed reduction and imprisonment with his kit to crowd control the enemy rather than them usually crowd controlling you, which is honestly the perfect revenge because being crowd controlled is really painful, especially when your lightning lord doesn't strike because of being crowd controlled. Welt is quite a unique character as a result, and is a great character to have to take advantage of his debuffs, as he could debuff multiple enemies and can assist with light cones or relic sets that take advantage of the enemies being debuffed. Plus, he could deal more damage himself when enemies are slowed, and as a result can be an amazing support, or even a mix of a sub DPS on your team and a support. Or I guess if you want to buff him through the end of time with our buffers and maybe other debuffers, he could possibly also be your main DPS. Now that we've gone over all our damage dealers though, let's go over our final character and then I'll give my thoughts on who I'd pick and who I recommend you picking. For our final character, it is the one and only Bronya. Bronya is a wind harmony character who has been an incredible asset for most DPS characters in our roster, as she can cleanse with her skill and she can also advance an ally forward by 100%. It allows them to immediately act after her skill and lastly increases their damage by quite a lot as well. Bronya's ultimate also allows your team to have increased attack and also increased crit damage based on a percentage of her own crit damage, plus an additional set amount depending on how much you level up her ultimate. Bronya's traces also allows her to increase the defense of allies by 20% for 2 turns at the start of battle, and also when she's on field, all allies will deal 10% more damage. Overall, as a buffer, Bronya is incredible as she can greatly improve your DPS output on your team and can also be used to advance teammates in order to deal more damage, or if you need emergency sustain, which can be quite useful. Now for my personal thoughts on who to pick, all of these characters have amazing value, but I personally would recommend Bronya the most. This is because she's able to increase your damage output by quite a lot. Gepard is also great for great sustainability, and also Welt for his unique skill kits for debuffing enemies, slowing them down, imprisoning them, so on. Another notable mention, of course, though, is Clara for her tank DPS capabilities. I would recommend pulling Bronya, though, on any account as she's an incredible asset. And as for Gepard, if you do plan to pull for Xuan and Lynx, then you could possibly pass Gepard, as you'll be able to obtain Tuna Sustains, which will release later this month. Ultimately comes down to what you're missing on your account. And at the end of the day, picking the character you like the most is what's important and what you think will honestly benefit your account the most. Of course, it's more so a case-by-case basis, but I thought I'd share my thoughts on all the options and how they could be used and my personal opinion on which one I'd recommend most. I'd love to know which character you guys are planning to pick and who your favorite is from the standard banner. If you have any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments down below as I'll try to help the best I can. Make sure to join the description. Make sure to join the Discord in the description below or on my YouTube profile. Either one works. I'm getting tongue twisters. I'm very sorry. If you enjoyed, consider subscribing to see more style content from me. I hope you all have a great one like always. Peace.